All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of Coached Up. I am your host, Kyle the Style, and once again I have my dad here with me, Coach Major Beckton. What's going on, Dad?
It's all good, man. I'm trying to get over all that Super Bowl food that I ate. And hey, just glad to be back. We've been trying to get this gentleman on the show. We've been having a few little technical difficulties and things like that, but we wanted to get somebody on here, one of the OGs from the grassroots basketball here in Memphis. It is indeed a pleasure tonight that we got Coach Clyde Peete, the pride of South Memphis. And
Absolutely.
welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today here on Coached Up, where we just interview coaches from all different sports where we can get their background and see what drives them, make them tick, and, hopefully give some inspiration to some future coaches out there. So thank you for coming on and joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. And again, I appreciate that.
All right.
Absolutely, absolutely. So your hometown, did you grow up in Memphis?
Well, probably from the fifth grade on up. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, sixth grade on up to in Memphis. Yeah. I finished my
Okay.
fifth grade year out of where my grandmother lived. We had
Mm-hmm.
we had an unfortunate incident when I lived in Chicago. We was in
Mm-hmm.
a house fire, and so we ended up having to migrate back to the South. And I
Mm-hmm.
staying with my grandmother and finishing up my fifth grade out in Stanton, Tennessee.
All right.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Stanton. So yeah, that's close to where we were started out there in Whiteville,
Right,
Tennessee.
Whiteville. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Awesome, awesome. And so as far as starting basketball, were you playing basketball when you moved down here, or was that something that got introduced to you when you came?
that is something that got introduced when I came here.
Mm-hmm.
I really was kind of looking for things. We kind of moved a lot, and so I really couldn't get settled in on in terms of sports. And
Mm-hmm.
Chicago was during that time. It was kind of it was a rough time. You had those gangs and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Mom pretty much kept us close to the house, and we would do certain things, but not as in terms of sports. The only sports that I did, I think, like at recess, they used to give us football, and we would kick footballs in recess, and that was about the most activity that
Mm-hmm.
we got. So when I came here to Memphis, where I lived with my grandparents, their backyard was right on the other side of their backyard was a park.
Mm-hmm.
So at Booth Park to be exact, and so I would often go to the park. I ended up being introduced to some guys that lived in the neighborhood, and we just started doing certain things from
Yeah.
baseball, football, and basketball. So that's how I kind of got introduced to it.
Right.
Awesome.
So, Coach Pete, did you play in junior high basketball?
You know what? I did not play in junior high. Really, believe it or not, back in that day, the guys in the neighborhood, because I was pretty good at catching and running football.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
coming up, football was the thing that they kind of pushed me towards. However, when you weigh about 80 pounds or 85 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
playing football, when you have contact, kind of redirected my focus and my attention.
I hear you. I
Right.
hear
I,
Yeah.
I understand
So,
that. I
yeah.
understand. Like you
And look,
said, basketball is physical, but it's nothing like football, right?
man, man, I got an old story. What really turned me away from it. Guys who kept the older guys in the community would kind of coach you up or encourage you, and they saw what I could do in terms of running and then catching it. And
Mm-hmm.
so we would often play a rival park. And the last incident was they did a sweep on my direction on defense,
you.
and when I raised my head up and looked at, they were going the other direction. And it kind of dawned on me, boy, this ain't no thing you need to be looking at longevity wise. You might need to
Right.
directing your attention.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um,
So, after junior high, you went to where'd you go to high school?
Well, I went to Carver High School. So, and it's kind of funny. There's a funny story behind it. I played in the park and I did a lot of things, but I had a lot of Sandlock in me. My favorite player was Earl the Pearl Monroe. I don't know if y'all remember, he played with the
Oh
New
yeah.
York.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I kind of tried to mimic my game after. So I had a whole lot of flash and dash. And
Mm-hmm.
I went out in the 9th grade and I got cut. So I went back out in the 10th grade, and the guy had to choose between me and another guy, and I was afraid that I was going to get cut, so I didn't go back out. But then I worked real hard that summer, and I
Mm-hmm.
started playing, and I went back out in the 11th grade. So I made the team in my 11th grade year, and from the 11th grade, I played my 12th grade year.
Okay.
Yeah, and so from there, after I graduated, I ended up going down to Russ College in Holly Springs, Mississippi.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I initially I wasn't planning on going to college, but the little job that I had, and it was working at a meal company, kind of redirected my attention as well. It kind of made me
Mm-hmm.
say, boy, you don't want to be lifting these 50-pound bags of meal.
Right.
You know, for a career, you might need to look at trying to get yourself into school. And I went to my guidance counselor at the school at the time, and she sent me down to Russ. And so I went down there and tried out for the team, and I made the team.
All
And
right. All right.
so,
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
But going back to your high school days, what was your coach like? Do you remember your coach, and was there something that he did to help you know that you had to work hard, or did he do something to motivate you at all?
Well, one of the things that he often told me, yeah, and I still talk to my coach today. He's still living. He's about 84, uh,
Oh.
and he's still living today. He calls periodically, and I call him too.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that he told me, he said, you may not be the most talented person on the floor, but there is no excuse for not hustling and playing
Right.
defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of put my hat on being able to play defense because I really
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that good in terms of my skill set because I was, I kind of started kind of late in the game in terms of fundamentals and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did make the team and I did play a lot when I did play, but I really didn't consider myself as really a good both sides of the ball, offense and defense. My hat was laid on defense, so I often was the person that tried to stop whoever the best player was in my position on the opposite side. I would try to defend them to the best, and if I got some offense, okay, I've got a little offense. But in terms of
Mm-hmm.
fundamentals and stuff, I kind of started kind of late with that.
All right.
Gotcha. I guess when you were coming up, what you speak about defense, what types of defense did you guys run? Was it all man to man, or did you do zone? Was there any pressing or anything back then?
Pretty much a combination of man to man and zone. We didn't do a whole lot
Okay.
of pressing in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as defense, mostly man to man and a little
Mm-hmm.
zone every once in a while. But that's where we pretty much laid our hat on. It wasn't a whole lot of pressing back then. Uh,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah. I was just curious about that.
yeah,
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
Clyde, do you
yeah.
remember this? Did you ever hear this guy play at Carver? In my opinion, one of the best high school basketball players ever in Memphis, Frank Petilio.
I know you was gonna call Frank's name. So, so,
Kyle, let
so,
me tell you something.
yeah, bad young,
NBA,
absolutely.
NBA.
Yeah,
Could
he
have
was
been
tough.
an NBA player, but I think, we got a story with Frank. So in my park, in the neighborhood I grew up, one of the things I told you, we grew up with some older guys. And so the common theme every day was little boy day tomorrow. So when the
Mm.
next day came, it was always tomorrow. However, it was about a couple of guys, about three guys and myself included in that three, where we would get with Frank Petilio and we
Mm-hmm.
would rule the court.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Y'all were the little guy. Y'all the little guys,
we
huh?
was the little hustling guys, and Frank would
Mm-hmm.
kind of set us up, and he would be the one that kind of direct us on where to go. But now check this out. At that particular time, Frank had kind of fell on some hard time. He wasn't in school, and he walked. He played on the back of some Stack Heel shoes.
Mm.
See that,
Oh
and
man.
we would rule the court. And
Wow.
so
That guy,
he was a bad young man. And
man.
Mhm.
you know, one of the things that I found out about Frank was he went to college, but he couldn't assimilate. He couldn't translate because he really, I don't believe, and this is me talking, I don't know, that he probably wasn't the best student. And so I think he went to a pretty much all white school where, you know, he coming from South Memphis. You know, how many
Right,
white kids do you see in South Memphis? Not a whole lot, but now you're on a campus with nothing but white people. And not saying that there was anything wrong with that, but some people have difficulty translating, relating, fitting in the whole 9 yards. And so
right.
consequently, he left there and came back home, and then he ended up being, you know, somebody that kind of hung out on the corners and every once in a while get out on the basketball floor, court that we had, and play ball with us. So he was a bad young man in terms of what I saw as a basketball player back then. But he had a
Absolutely.
name like it was nothing in the neighborhood, well, through the city of Memphis, really.
Right, right. One
Yeah.
of the best I've ever seen come through this town. No,
Yeah,
hands down, hands
yeah.
down.
Yeah. So you saw him. Did he have height, or what was he, like a
He,
guard, or?
he was about 6'4", 6'3", 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, had handles, could
Handles.
shoot it. He was nice, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, we being little, you know, we maybe about 14, 13, 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that he just kind of, you know, we just kind of played in the park, man, and he kind of helped us. He taught us to always go away from the ball. Little things about basketball that you really don't know until somebody teach you how to do that
Mm-hmm.
type of stuff. And but he was very influential in me playing basketball as a kid, and made me feel like, you know, hey, I can do this, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when
Cool.
you got down to Russ, how did your career go down there as a player?
So, you know, I told you I had a lot of flash and dash in me. And so one day we was playing pickup, and I was spinning like Earl of Pearl, and all of a sudden I threw a behind the back pass that didn't hit its right target. And the coach said, "Boy, we don't play basketball like this down in Mississippi." So and kind of made it quite clear that I need to get myself together and learn how to play fundamentals. And that's really where I learned the game from. My college coach, he taught me, he taught us the game itself, the ins and out of it. And I was a student of the game. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and he had some, now his mentor who he tried to mimic his game after was Bobby Knight, if you believe
Okay.
that. So Bobby Knight
Oh.
played tough defense. He was
Mm-hmm.
a strict disciplinarian. Uh, and our coach, for my first year, my head was spinning
Mm.
in terms of when to, when not to, the level of confidence. I still hustle. I did play defense. That's one thing. Like you said, you might not be the most talented, but your effort, there's no excuse for not giving effort, and you know, and
Mm-hmm.
playing. So he saw that part in me, and you know, gave me the opportunity because I went down there and I wasn't on a scholarship my
Okay.
first
Right.
year. And so after I made the team, and you saw how hard I worked, he ended up giving me one my sophomore year, and that's how
Oh,
I started.
Okay.
Uh,
sweet. So when you went to college at Russ, I know you said you weren't on the scholarship. You were, just trying to, get your degree. What actually encouraged you to go out for the basketball team? Was it something that somebody said, or what made you do that?
well, I think it was just a matter of me just wanting to give it a shot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I thought I could be a pretty good player. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was quick. I played good defense, and you know, if you're a coach, you're always looking for somebody who has some athleticism in terms of quickness and being able to guard and defend. Uh, you know, and the other stuff kind of came along with me putting in outside time in terms of my dribbling and being confident with both hands, left hand and right hand. Just spend time to do that and develop. I think our freshman year we got our head beat in pretty bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've told you this, Major, but we played against Newman and Clint Jackson there.
Ooh.
And they won that championship their senior year when I was a freshman. Man, they beat our heads in. We went down to Jackson State. We played Eugene and Purvis Shaw. Got our head beat in. So, but all that did for me was to give me more determination on getting better, and pretty much the team to get better and to want to kind of do the same thing to somebody else that was done on us,
Right.
And so we the guys we had a little core team that, matter of fact, it was 3 guys that came in my freshman year that we stayed the whole 4 years. And I don't know if I told you this, Travis. I don't know if you remember, John Outlaw. Travis Outlaw is his son. Travis.
Okay. I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, but John could high jump 6'10" at 6'6" with a wingspan of 7'2".
Ooh.
Yeah, he could scratch his kneecap standing straight up.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, he could jump out the gym, and so he was our center. And Harold McGee, Harold.
Yeah, I know.
Harold was our 4. Ron Easley was our 5. John was our 5. But we had some guys that was kind of from core. My sophomore year, we got a little bit better. We added a couple of pieces. A guard out of Kentucky named Melvin Evans, and a guy that played at Bolton named Lowell Garrett. A couple of more pieces, a couple of other guys named Henry Story. But when those guys came to play with us, we felt like we had something real special. We often in the summertime would go down to Ole Miss and scrimmage them in the summertime, and we would come out beating Ole Miss in the summertime.
All right.
They had John Stow, and I think it's a guy named Tui.
John Tui.
John Tui. And but we used to go down there and just to keep in shape, and they would compete against us, and they come down to us every once in a while. But we would go down to Ole Miss, and we just played back and forth, and we held our own with those guys, and so we felt pretty good about my junior year. And matter of fact, that was the year that we went 35-5.
Woo,
we won the national championship for the Division III.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
what year was that?
What
year was that?
76, 77.
Okay.
We were the first national championship Russ had.
Oh man, so they probably still got that trophy and pictures of y'all and everything.
Absolutely. If you ever go down there, you'll see it on the wall. And of course, none of us look the same, but that's us.
Got you.
Man,
so
cool.
Yeah, that is real cool. So like you said, this was like, I guess, like in the 70s. So at this time, being down at South in Mississippi, did you as a team, did y'all ever face like any discrimination or any situations where you had to deal with anything like racial like that?
Well, Russell's a little small town, and I never did a whole lot of venturing off into the city, just because of you're in Mississippi. And I think the most discrimination that I felt, was guys that lived in the city that didn't like the guys on campus, because the girls from the city would come and try to mess with the guys on campus. So,
right. So we want the college guys.
They want to be with the college guys, and that was about the big, thing that I dealt with. But as far as venturing off in the city, now when we travel a lot, it wasn't a whole lot, because we went to a lot of HBCU campuses, and
Well, man, I'm learning something about you that I didn't know. I didn't realize that y'all had won a national championship.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. So that was your junior year, right?
That was my junior year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And our
So
senior
yeah,
came back. We had a pretty nice squad too, but we lost one of our key players our senior year, and our record wasn't as good as our first year. You know, we considered ourselves Showtime at the HBCU.
okay,
And
fast break.
yeah,
Yeah, running and gunning.
we still own the scoring record. They still hold it. We did 151 points in two 20-minute halves.
Good Lord,
Oh
y'all
man,
were
and
running.
with no threes, right? No 3-point shot.
No threes.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh man.
Hey,
Ooh-wee.
hey, hey, back there, here go another one. When I first went down there my freshman year, we couldn't even dunk.
Oh, that's right. Duncan was outlawed then.
Dunking was outlawed. All you had to do was finger roll or lay it over the front.
Mm,
Yeah,
Man,
that's crazy. But
yeah.
150 without
150,
threes.
yeah, man, y'all had to be. I mean, up and down. I'm getting
We
up and down.
pressed the whole game up and down. It
Hmm.
was sort of like a revenge game for us. So we had the scoring. We had the best record in the state of Mississippi, uh, and we were on our way to New Orleans. And if we had a one, continue to have a, I think we was like either 18-0 or 19-0, and we had to go to Talladega, Alabama, and then we
Hmm.
headed to New Orleans, where we felt like we got cheated in Talladega.
Mm.
Hmm.
So we end up having that one blemish on our record in terms of loss, and we didn't end up, having the opportunity to do the interview because we no longer had the best record in Mississippi at that time. But as far as defense and stuff like that, we were pretty tight.
That's
Yeah,
awesome, man. That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, that
yeah.
So,
is cool.
so as you finished up your college career, and what are you considering doing at that point in time?
So after I finished college, I ended up going back to my high school, and I ended up becoming the assistant coach with my coach who coached me in high school. And
Okay.
the beauty about that is that he pretty much gave me free reign to do what I wanted to do. They knew that I had won a national championship at my high school, and the kids that were there, I would often go back in the summertime and play with those guys, and they were younger than I was, but at the same time, they knew me, and they knew I knew the game. And so one thing about Carver during that time, Carver's always had talent,
Right.
but they never could win the big ones. So I came back, kind of introduced a system to them, and Doc, my coach, gave me the opportunity to do that. And
Hmm.
so I would spend a lot of time with those guys who were pretty much hungry for some knowledge, some help in trying to become better themselves. And luckily I encountered some guys who pretty much whatever I said, they pretty much did, and we were pretty successful with that. Matter of fact, we lost, I think, in the regions my first year, but then we went to the state my second year. We lost in the finals in the state. Uh,
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah. So those guys went on. Some of those guys went on and played Division One basketball. You had Bobby Westbrook who played at
oh,
Vanderbilt.
yeah. Good play.
You had Willie White who played at UT Chad.
Yeah.
You had Stanley Blue and a couple of guys went to North Alabama. You had Dwight Moody who went to Missouri coming out. Pretty much all those guys went to a Division One, a major college, and went on and become quite successful in their endeavors. One of the
Right.
things that I tried to help them to understand is making sure that they got their education, because you're not going to be playing basketball all your life, and so
Right.
it's
Right.
a phase, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a small percentage that go and play pro. So, like you said, you can use that opportunity to get your education and build a better life for yourself.
Absolutely.
That's something I try to teach the kids when I was coaching, is that you use basketball as a stepping stone and as a teaching tool to help you grow as a person and as a man. So I definitely can relate to that for sure.
Yeah, don't
Absolutely.
let basketball use you. You use basketball.
That's
Right.
perfect there. I like
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
it.
Sure.
yeah.
Man, that squad you just named, man, I remember all of those guys, man.
Yeah,
That was a heck of a team. Matter of fact, and see, you were out, had to be on the sideline. I saw that team play some, man.
absolutely.
That was a good squad, man. That was
Yeah,
a good.
so I'm gonna tell you what we used to do. Because I played in college and I had those guys that played with me, I would bring them up and they would scrimmage the guys. So they actually was able to see in action what I was trying to get them to see.
Right.
In terms of the level of play and how, you kid used to go down and dunk and they screaming and yelling, jumping up and down. My guys, you dunk on us, they got the ball out, went back to the other side and got a layup or a dunk themselves. And you still celebrating a play that's long gone. We in a move play, and little nuances of the game that I felt like because of having the opportunity to play against those guys, scrimmage wise and stuff, they learned some valuable lesson, which they in turn translated that on the floor when they played. So I could start out. I think we started out with a little sophomore at guard, and I could take my 4 and put him at the point, and then bring him up 6'5", 6'6", and it was on. It was off to the races.
Oh, I know that's kind of how they playing nowadays.
Yeah.
Bringing the 4 at the point. So that was ahead of its time for sure.
Yep.
Awesome, cool.
So when you okay, and when you were at Carver, and how long did you stay there as an assistant coach?
So I stopped coaching at 84.
Okay.
Yeah. I was there from 79 until about 84.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you at that point? Did you get burned out on it? Or?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what happened. That you start getting a different type of kid. It was like when I first came out, I was fresh and hot. Everything I threw those guys, they ate it up. The second group that came along, and I don't care what I throw, it was like they would
it bounced off of them.
It bounced off of them. They wasn't getting it at all. And so, but I also learned for myself, I think as a teacher, you kind of do your lesson plan. The art of a good teacher is not so much being able to teach from a lesson plan, but take that lesson plan and translate it into where the kid is. And I was lacking in that because I wasn't mature enough to kind of understand it. I'm thinking, there's something wrong with those kids. And it could have been to a degree, but it also was something that I lack in terms of being able to take a lesson plan and turn it around to make it fit to wherever that kid was.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay, so
that's the art of a good teacher.
Right. So you're saying like
this little cookie cutting format, but being able to turn it and twist it in a way to where wherever that kid is, you can get it, and they can get it to where they can catch it now.
Right. So like you said, being able to change your game plan based on like what the players can actually do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because they all ain't the same. They all don't learn the same.
I was pounding the way that I knew and the way that I didn't understand the importance of changing it up and doing things a little bit differently. Maybe not incorporating, the guys that I was teaching, they could run and jump. The other guys that came along couldn't run and jump. They couldn't figure it out. They, I don't care what I did, some of them was lacking in certain areas. And it could have been the fact maybe I didn't have the talent as well.
Right.
But to me personally, I felt like I probably failed in that area and really got disenchanted with teaching and coaching. And I got out of it for a long period of time.
So when you left teaching and coaching, you went into corporate America?
No, what I did, I ended up going out to Lakeside. So part of my frustration was not understanding why kids wasn't getting it, why kids were having difficulty. And I ended up running across a situation where I was offered a job to work at Lakeside and to start learning about behavior. Behavior is always been something that I've been kind of curious about, wanting to understand better.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came out there and I started working and everything started coming into, I was like, aha, that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had certain kids, you know, you never know what kids go through from a home life perspective. And, you know, kids come with all different types of, come from all different types of situations, not understanding that some of those kids probably was having some emotional, mental issues, and it all stemmed from, you know, home, or just because of who they were in terms of their mental capabilities.
Right.
So that that job really fascinated me,
Mm-hmm.
and it helped me to have a better understanding. And I started even learning more about myself, you know,
Okay.
as a human being. Yeah.
Mm.
So you're at Lakeside. So how did you get back into grassroots basketball, youth
So
basketball?
that's a funny story too. So when I had my son, I started looking at, as he started, you know, playing. Of course, the first thing my buddy did is put a basketball in his hand as a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So he always, you know, kind of played ball. And so what I decided to do when he got big enough was to kind of coach him from a church league perspective, where you practice once a week and you play once a week.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
um, and so we started out at our church, and we would again practice 1 week, play 1 week. I was telling back early that the most enjoyable thing about it, because we got our head beat our first year, but the
Mm-hmm.
second year we really came on. All I was teaching was how to dribble, how to lay the ball up, how to catch the ball. That's all we
Mm-hmm.
worked on. And coming from a little kids, that's pretty much the basics of what they need to learn, is
Right.
catching, dribbling, and laying the ball up.
Okay.
And the most exciting part about, because we got our head beat in all the time, was the snacks after that's what I look forward to, the juice and the chips and stuff.
So
All right.
what
So they
snack?
cheered everybody up.
Absolutely. Now, the second year, they enjoyed beating other people in the head, but at the same time, also looking for them chips and snacks as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and from
Got
there, things kind of took off. He started developing a little skill set that maybe indicated that he, maybe could do a little something. So I started looking for. I got with Kevin McGee and started asking him about, some little teams that I could put him on. And we ran across this guy named Corey, uh, and Corey had a little team, but uh, I was looking for somebody to teach him something, and me saying I
Mm-hmm.
could be a dad, but I never could find anybody who could teach him as much as I knew, or that I felt comfortable leaving him with to teach him.
Right.
So
Right. Mm-hmm.
Corey and Kevin and myself kind of formulated kind of this three-head monster, that where we start formulating a team, and we really started working with those kids, and we end up uh, working our way always to the nationals in Orlando. And
Mm.
so we came in ninth place out of all the teams for the 9-year-olds in the country. We came in ninth place. Was it ninth place or sixth place? It was one of them. So long ago. But each year we was always right there in the hunt of being in the nationals and getting close to winning, uh, all the way up through the ranks. I stopped coaching when they got 14. I told Beck by the time them jokers got 14, they started getting dang brains at that age, and I kind of had to bag up,
Yeah, they didn't want to listen. But that's
No,
one
no,
thing that I was gonna ask you, as far as like coaching the younger kids, even like the 9-year-olds, like what do you do to get their attention and like just to make them listen? Because a 5, 6, 7-year-old, they're like all over the place. What is it? Because I'm asking this because I'll be coaching my son here soon, because he'll start playing next fall. And so, what is it that I could do to help him and all of them learn and still stay focused during practice?
So what I would do is that I would run them. I would run them, put them behind the line, or I make them do a 3 or 4 push-ups, something that
Mm-hmm.
lets you know that I should be doing this. You know, I would
Yeah.
make it something long and tenuous, because you know their attention span. But I would do
Right.
something that would reflect to them that I don't need to be doing this. I need to be paying attention to coach. And I would
Okay.
and I would do a lot of hand signs of where I wouldn't talk. So, for example, if I did this, they knew what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
If I did this, they know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
So I had them like focusing on me all the time, looking for me to give some direction. It's something for them to kind of focus on,
Cool.
Okay.
and spend time with them. Uh, I, I I didn't have my team when we played. You was a team, and uh, I didn't have the Mamba mentality where sure there ain't no I in team, but there's an ME for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I I, I did a lot of team stuff and did look played little tricks with them on how to stay focused and pretty much I did a pretty we did a pretty good job of that.
Uh, I was going to ask you this because Kyle and I kind of experienced that. Your story and Kyle, my story and Kyle's story, you and Tim's story sound a lot alike because we know he was like 5 or 6 and he had played for this guy one year, and then I was like, oh man, oh, I ain't liking what I'm seeing, of course.
Absolutely.
And then I was like, well, I guess I have to do this myself. And so we ended up staying together. But it was always a delicate thing about, okay, where am I being too hard on him? Or maybe I certainly don't want to be too lenient. How did you work that out when you were coaching Tim?
Man, that was the hardest thing I ever did in my life, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because you know I wasn't raised with a dad, and so how to be a dad really wasn't something that was natural for me.
Mm.
So I was learning on the fly, so to speak, and it took me
Mhm.
a while. I didn't realize it, but my son would often be jealous because what I tried not to do was to show any favoritism because it was my son, and I maybe did a little bit too much because that's what parents look at you. You know, you playing for your son, you know, and
Right.
Mhm.
on special attention to him. And so always trying to be fair in terms of how I interacted or discipline or whatever. And sometimes that translated outside of basketball because what I would also try to do is to teach him about life and how to be humble, respectful, kind. And sometimes I would show some attention to guys who didn't have a father in the house, and he would be sometimes jealous of that just
Right.
because I was
Mhm.
showing them some attention and you're my son or you're my dad. Wow. You got to give him some attention. You ain't playing no ball now, you know.
Mhm.
Right.
But that was how I was taught to do that. And so he and I often had some discussions about that.
Mhm.
And I understand, but that was a hard task on how to be, how to cut it off when you leave the floor versus keeping it on even when you was outside the floor. And I probably failed at it miserably early until after I stopped coaching him.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely even like I don't coach my son at baseball, but we go out and we practice and stuff, and like I'm still trying to find that balance of like pushing him so he can get better, but not pushing him too much where he doesn't like the game or he doesn't want to do it anymore. So it's like just
absolutely.
hard trying to find that balance, and I guess it's different for every kid because some kids can take a little more than
Sure.
others, so you just gotta kind of gotta know the kids, so I definitely can relate to that as well.
Absolutely.
And I agree.
Mhm.
I agree with you, Clyde. It's one of the hardest things I ever had to do because, we had to have a rule in the house. Y'all can talk about this game all the way in the car after you leave the gym, but once y'all come in the house, that's the end of it.
Mhm.
We be having these conversations back and forth. you know. And
Yeah.
I think I was at some points too hard on Kyle.
Yeah.
But he said something in one of our other interviews. He said he felt comfortable because I knew what he could do on the court, and he felt like, other than maybe his high school coaches or other AAU coaches, he didn't have as much of a rope to do certain things because I
Yeah.
knew what he could do, and I
Yeah.
guess that is important too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you started coaching your son and your team started to, evolve and get really good. So at some point you went over to one of the biggest AAU programs or youth programs in Memphis, which was Bellevue War Eagles. How did you guys end up in that program?
So, at a certain age, I think it was like 13,
Mm-hmm.
you start looking for sponsors, people that's
Mm-hmm.
going to help you with some of that travel and gear and all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seemed to be a natural maturation process. Luckily, we had some people that kind of knew that program. Rodney
Mm-hmm.
Newsom was that interface that we had with that. But we also had an opportunity to deal with Mike Miller's M33.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's really who we ended up playing with. I was telling Beck, we also played in the Bob Givens. I don't know if y'all remember Bob Givens.
I remember that one. Yeah.
So we
That's
won the
Mhm.
Bob Givens at 14. And
Oh,
yeah, so we
so you
were
won the whole thing, the whole championship.
absolutely.
Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
was one of the bigger tournaments around. I don't know. Do they still have that, Clyde?
I don't think they do, but
That was the big boy there.
that was a big boy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we travel all over the country now, and that's in North Carolina. Matter of fact,
Okay.
we played on North Carolina floor when we won it.
All right.
Oh, that's cool. That's real cool. Do you feel like that was the best team that you coached, or was it like one of your first teams back at your old high school at Carver? Do you feel
Uh,
like which one was the best?
there's no doubt about it. The one at Carver was the best. You
Mm-hmm.
had older kids. You had, those kids. I'm talking about 6'6", 6'5", 6'4". Your shortest man could be 6'3".
Yeah.
That's the shortest on the floor.
That was a
Mm-hmm.
squad there.
Everybody dunking.
Yeah. That was a
Yeah.
squad. All those guys, the $6 million man, and when
Ben
they were
Rhodes,
at
Ben
Westbrook,
Rhodes, Wes Brooks,
man.
Dwight Moody. I also coached Kenny Moody.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Gotcha.
So after you decided to give it up, you said at one point they just started getting a brain damage.
Dane Bramage is what I call it.
Damn.
Dane Bramage.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost similar because they started reading the stats, looking in the paper, their rankings. They know
Oh
more
yeah.
than you now. They started getting a little girlfriend. Somebody's friends telling them how good they are. And they stopped listening. So at that point, I was like, okay, sound like it's time for me to kind of step aside and let y'all handle this on your own.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah, and I can only imagine what it's like coaching the kid like high school and like high school 8th grade kids right now with social media and
Oh
stuff
man,
like that. It's probably they heads are probably all the way blown
they got
up.
TikTok and all of this other stuff, and
you call it TikTok. I call it Talk Tick.
I hear you. Hey, look at Clyde. As you look back on your coaching career, we like to ask everybody this: do you feel like, because at one point, you were a teacher / coach, and then later on you were a volunteer coach. Would you feel like it was a calling or a job?
Oh, it was definitely a calling, and I'm gonna tell you why. I think as a kid myself, without having a father in the house, I always wanted somebody to kind of teach me and show me how to do things. And I think one of the things that I tried to do when I was learning the game is to be a student of it and learn. And I felt like I could take that and help some other kid to understand what it takes and how to do things.
Mm-hmm.
So it really wasn't a job for me. It really, to me, was more like a calling. And one of the things that, again, after some years of working at Lakeside and having that piece added to what I was doing, gave me a better understanding about how to reach kids and how to, convey messages, helping them see the big picture. One of the things that I taught my son is whenever he would get in a situation to where seemingly what he was doing wasn't working, with either the time that he was playing in college or kids not listening to him or him trying to teach, I kept always saying, paint a picture. You got to paint a picture for some people, because some people can't see it the way you see it, but you got to constantly keep painting that picture to where hopefully that they will eventually see the light or the clear picture of what you're trying to teach them or help them to understand. So that's what I always try to do. I always try to paint a picture, and that's one of the things that he does now. And the other thing, when he was going through college, going through what they was going through, and I was telling him, "Oh, they ain't gonna listen to it." All the time he was doing it behind my back. He never did want to let me know that that's what he was actually doing. And those kids look for him to, even today, they look for him and contact him. He's sort of like the head of the snake. He gets them together. They stay on they on a chat line together. And he's been out of college a long time, since 10. Not as high school now. He's been out of college since about 14, 15, 2014, 15.
And Tim is coaching now, right?
He's coaching at Radford University in Radford, Virginia. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Hey,
oh, so he's following in his dad's footsteps. That's awesome.
I don't know if that's a valid profession or curse. I'm not sure.
I think it's a blessing, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, because I'm Tim, Kyle, if you ever hear in Tim's and I'd like you to meet Tim. Tim's a class guy, man. Y'all done a great job raising
We're
Tim.
very proud of him, no doubt about that. We are very proud. He may not be the best coach, but he's a good person. He got a good heart, and he tries.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we always like to ask everybody, especially ex-players, who is their opinion of who's the GOAT?
Oh, we got to go with Michael.
MJ.
Hey,
got to go with it.
Hey, you can't hate on that. You can't hate on that for sure. The way he elevated the game, so for sure,
that's the GOAT to me.
Absolutely,
no doubt. What about your opinion on the best? I don't want to give you one player, but you can name like 2 or 3 of your best players from Memphis.
Oh yeah.
They played for Memphis.
Well, not that just played, for the university, but they're from Memphis. They could have went and played anywhere, or maybe didn't go anywhere and play. Maybe they just were high school standouts. But just some of your favorite players that you remember coming out of the city of Memphis.
That's a tough one.
Willie
White was probably your most athletic. Willie could have went football. He could have went baseball. I mean, because like I said, he grew up in my neighborhood where you played baseball, basketball, and football. Matter of fact, it was his uncle that did that sweep to my end that made me realize I might play football.
Ended your football career.
Yeah, ended my football career as far as I was concerned. I think his name is Booney. I can't even think his real name, but
yeah. Awesome. Well, man, I really appreciate your insight, and I'm gonna take some of the things that you shared with us today as I move forward and start coaching my son next season. And like I was at first, I was like, man, I don't want to coach him, especially not at this young age, because it's almost like you kind of babysitting, all the other kids. And I just sometimes, like you said, I just want to be a dad and watch my son. But I was, I had went to one of the community league practices one day, and I saw this guy. It was a kid. He was shooting a left hand layup, and he was struggling shooting a left hand layup. And the coach said, "Why you keep trying to shoot it with your left hand? Just shoot it with your right." And
Oh,
I was like, and that day right there, I said, I'm gonna have to coach my son.
They should find you an ex-player who understands the game and can help teach you, and they can take that pressure off you. I couldn't find one myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like at that age, it's because they're so young, it's probably hard to find, somebody, because mostly it's all dads, that's trying to coach. Some of them might know a little bit, and some just doing it because nobody else would do it.
Absolutely.
So, I was like, when I heard that, I said, I got to step in and help him out, because if you can't shoot the left hand layup, that means you just got to keep practicing it.
Absolutely.
You don't give up on it.
Right.
That's true. That is.
I used to tell something. Kids used to. I had a coach that used to say, "Practice make perfect." Nope. Mm-hmm. Perfect practice make perfect.
There you go. Right.
Yeah, because you can practice and practice. If you practice it wrong, you're never gonna be perfect.
Exactly. That's so true.
Hey, you building bad habits.
Absolutely. Right. That's all you do. You get perfect in bad habits.
Right. That's so true. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, bro, Clyde, man, I really appreciate you coming on here, man. I've learned a whole lot of stuff, man. I tell you what, that's an interesting story about hard work and how, like, that story from the 9th grade to the 10th grade, then you come back in the 11th grade, and then how that transcends to you. Hey, man, you changed some lives.
Well,
because of the hard work that you put in,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I take my hat off to you, bro.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you, Coach. And I thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to kind of be with you all. And I hope this can kind of help somebody. And good luck to you all. Y'all doing a good thing here, doing these podcasts. And,
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, you always have a home. If you got anything you want to share, you can always come back, and you can join us on here at any time, Mr. Peete. I really appreciate you.
Well, sounds good. Maybe next time we'll talk about what you look for, and if you're trying to find a coach, what are you looking for?
There you go.
Absolutely, that'll be good. A nice session. So we need to do that. We'll do that for sure. Absolutely.
Good.
All right. Thank you, Clyde. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. See you at church back.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.